How's it going, everyone? In today's video, I am going to be ranking in order from least important to most important, the 5 main factors that I consider when I'm creating a training program for my clients and even myself. As always, if you do find the video useful, and even if you don't find the video useful, please give me a like and a little subscribe. It helps me out massively, it costs you nothing, and yes, you will make me eternally grateful for all your help. Now, for this video's disclaimer, I will say that I am ranking the 5 what I consider main factors you've got to consider. There aren't only 5, but for the intents and purposes of this video, we're going to do the 5 main ones. There's nothing on this list that isn't important. Just because something is maybe higher or lower than something else doesn't mean that the lower ones aren't important. They obviously are important in their own way, but they're maybe just not as important as other things. And this is like general broad stroke, and there maybe will be sometimes that if you're working towards something pretty specific, the order of some of these will change, but for the most part, the order is pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, always going to stay the same. So we're going to start off with the 5th most important thing, which by proxy makes it the least important thing, and that is your volume, which is how much training you're actually doing. What I've come to realize over time is that the volume that you do in the gym is actually pretty inconsequential compared to the actual substance of what you're actually doing, and I am a big believer in quality over quantity. When I speak to people who maybe aren't progressing or getting the results that they want, very rarely is it down to the amount of training they're actually doing, and more so just how they're actually doing their training. And I think the vast majority of people do know the realistic amount of, well, minimum amount of training that they need to put in to actually make progress. I'm maybe slightly biased because I do come from a low volume, high intensity approach, but I do genuinely think that you can pretty much make progress and improvements happen from any sort of training volume, just as long as what you're actually doing is correct. Moving on to number 4, so the 4th most important thing, or 2nd least important thing, is your exercise selection, which is obviously the exercises that you're actually doing. I used to be the total polar opposite of this. I used to think that the exercises that you do in the gym were the absolute be-all and end-all, and I've become pretty obsessed about having to do these certain exercises. However, as I've gotten a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I have come to realise that your actual exercise choice isn't maybe the most important thing in the world. I think as long as you're getting your main exercises right, that is pretty important, but a lot of the secondary and assistant stuff you do, a lot of those exercises are really just interchangeable. So when I'm creating a program, I do have some non-negotiable movements or variations of, but again, a lot of the secondary and assistance exercises, they can just be swapped in and out. And tying it back into the theme of this list, I do think first and foremost, getting your exercises right is a lot more important than how much of your exercises you're actually doing. But as we're about to move on to, I do think that there is something more important that does take precedence over your exercise selection, and that is your overall training structure. So how does your program actually look like as a whole? So I'm really big on structure, and I think when you do have a solid structure in place and everything you do ties in together and it just everything works together in synergy, I think that the rest of your program, in terms of, because obviously your structure does cover your exercise selection and your volume, but a lot of that becomes, again, pretty inconsequential because you're just able to slot things in and out the program as you see fit. And it's very important that you're obviously doing the right exercises in the right way at the right times, rather than just throwing them in any old way. So for example, I would much rather have a program with a solid structure where everything works in together, and I'm maybe not doing quite the most effective exercises, rather than having a program with no structure where I'm just like throwing in random exercises, maybe the best exercises, but just doing them any old way. And I can guarantee you that doing the program with the structure, that's going to give you more progress. Obviously your structure does cover a lot of things like your exercise selection and volume, and when you do have that solid structure in place, picking your exercises and the volume you're going to do just becomes a lot easier. So number 2, the 2nd most important factor that when I'm creating a training program I look at is the specificity. And if you don't know what that word means, it's pretty simple. You need to make sure that your training program is set out to achieve your goal, whatever it may be. This might seem pretty obvious and a given that your program has got to be specific to your goal that you're trying to achieve, but you would probably be surprised at the amount of times that people are actually doing a training program that's just not conducive at all to what they are trying to achieve. If you have this like really great training program that's helping you build like loads of muscle and it's got the perfect exercises and the right amount of volume, that's great. But if you're trying to be a power lifter and improve your strength numbers, then it's not a very good program, is it? So when I'm creating a program for any of my clients, both of us have got to be crystal clear on what the goal is, and our program is going to be designed to solely achieving that goal. And you need to make sure that you're not just like throwing in random stuff just for the sake of it, just because it either looks cool or you think it might be good. If it's not there to serve the purpose of you achieving your goal and working towards well, whatever your goal is, then it's pointless and you need to get out the program. So the absolute number one most important thing, what could be more important than having a program that's designed specifically to achieve a goal and having the right structure, picking the right exercises and doing the right amount of it all? The absolute number one and most important thing when it comes to creating a program for anyone, and it doesn't matter who you are and what you're trying to achieve, the absolute most important thing is the adherence, which is, can you actually stick to the program? I could give you the absolute best program of all time, and see if you came to me for coaching, I probably would. But if you can't stick to that consistently for any length of time, then it's just not a good program. Again, it might seem obvious, but your first and foremost thing is actually making sure you get your training done. And if you're not doing your training consistently, for whatever reason, it might be stuff that's in your control or stuff that's out your control. If you're not getting the training complete, then you're just going to be pissing in the wind. When I'm working with a client to create a program, the very first thing I ask them is, what can you stick to consistently? Don't tell me what you think sounds good or what you think looks good on paper or what in like the absolute perfect world you want to do. Just tell me what you can do, and that's down to the actual training days and the number of days that you can do it, the exercises you can do, the actual amount of training you can tolerate and handle. And what I follow that up with, just to give you one specific example, I'm much better giving someone a 3-day-a-week program that they can complete 100% every single week than give them a 5-day-a-week program that's only 50% complete most of the time. So when you're creating a program, rather than working out what exercises you need to do and how much of it you need to do, first of all, work out what can I stick to. If you can't do certain exercises, you can't stick to it. If you can't get to days of the week because of work or other training or whatever it may be, you can't stick to it. Pointless. It's not difficult. Work out what you can stick to and then start to work backwards from that. Make sure that you're training specific to achieving your outcome, whatever that may be. Then you get your solid structure in place and you create just the general outlook of your program. From there, you can start sorting your exercises in and out as you need. And then the very last thing you worry about is how much you're actually going to be doing. And obviously, the way that the previous 4 things look, that's going to dictate how your overall volume looks. So there's, in my opinion, a very simple checklist of things to go through when you're creating a training program. If you're watching this video and you still don't think you have a clear idea of what your program looks like and is it actually the best program for you, programs for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask for help. My online coaching inquiry form is linked in the bio below. I am taking on 2 more clients before the end of July, my final 2 spots, so if you are interested in one of them, please feel free to get in touch. All my social media is also down there as well, including a link to my new Threads page, which is basically just my random thoughts of the day regarding training, and also any quick little bits of feedback that I've maybe given a client I feel like could be used to helping someone else out there. I think that's pretty much everything all covered, and I will see you in the next video.